think we're live. Not sure. I'll wait for comments to come through. My name is Lizzie. Welcome to my craft room. And tonight we're going to be making the Gemini cozy cover. Now, you have been downloading this in your hundreds over the last 7 days or so. So I know most of you have got the pattern and the instructions, and you may or may not have prepared all your fabrics. But the thing about a Facebook Live is that it stays on my Facebook page for ages, and I always upload it to YouTube. So I'll just see if I'm live and I'm not talking to myself. Oh, I am live. What a surprise. And I'll just change you to the front. Hello. I feel like saying, shall we start again? But we can't. So apart from looking in the wrong camera, now hopefully, yes, you can see the right camera. If not, somebody's going to have to say, yeah, wrong camera, Mum. I know, Abigail. I'm a trainee. Right. Gemini cozy cover. Here it is. Look at this. On my posh turntable that my John bought for me especially. So this is what we're going to make tonight. I'll see how far we go. I don't want to bore you, so I'm going to stick to the maximum of an hour. It has a zippy pocket, here we go, along the back of this, so you can put all your bits and pieces in there when you're not using the Gemini, because obviously you're going to be using it most of the time. So I'm going to show you how to put that in. It's got a handle. Now this is not a carry handle. This is merely a case of lifting off your Gemini and lifting it back on again. It's got pockets both sides with a magnetic closure. So hopefully you'll see that. I don't know how far you'll see. Let's have a look. Right, so Abigail says perfect. Phew, you've no idea the stress of setting up Switcher Studio, but hopefully it'll be useful. Yeah, so this is the front of your Gemini there. We can lift it up, we're ready to go. And like I say, you've got those two magnetic closure pockets either side. We've got a bit of piping on the bottom as well. And you know what, that's entirely optional whether you put that on or not, but it's a nice little feature. Originally I was going to pop it in the ends. I was going to make that piping, but actual fact, on reflection, I quite like it on the bottom. It looks really quite pretty. So I've used 3 different fabrics here on this one, and on the one that I'm going to create tonight, it's a similar sort of setup. So let me just push that out of the way, pop it over there. So hopefully you'll have downloaded the instructions. Now, I said right at the very beginning, I didn't know whether the instructions were going to be right or not, because I did it really quickly. I hadn't tested them out, although obviously I'd tested my own pattern out. So it was a case of fingers crossed, hope it works. Well, there was just 2 alterations to the original instructions, which I have amended now. The first one is I need you to make the handle a little bit longer. Okay, the one that we've got, which is 6x4, is actually fine, but to make it a little bit more loopy, you want to add another inch. So you could increase that to 7x4, but I've updated the I'm looking at my computer. I've updated the instructions, so you can always download another copy. The other one is that I have added interfacing to the inside of my zip pocket, because it just makes it a lovely crisp finish. So I'm going to go through the instructions, not now, as we go along. You may or may not have got your fabric and everything prepared. I'm hoping that you will have stabilised it and got your wadding on, because that takes ages and it's really dull watching that. If not, like I say, this Facebook Live is going to be on my page for ages, and actually, if you go into videos, you know, on my page, you go, you know, there's photos, there's videos, all that sort of thing. If you go to videos, it actually captures the Facebook Lives there. But I'm going to download it to YouTube anyway, so it's permanently there for us all to refer to. So don't worry. Perhaps it's better to watch and just enjoy the shenanigans of what may or may not happen tonight. So there we are. So all of the fabric is there. It's listed down, and I have to say I would say you could probably make 2 out of this, out of a pinch. because I erred on the side of caution, thinking, well, if I give you exact measurements, that would be no good to anybody. So I thought, right, let's say ½ metre, ¼ metre, and you're done. And when I say a ¼ metre, I mean a long ¼ metre, not fat quarter. Sometimes it works better with a long selvage to selvage ¼ metre. So the first thing you would do is obviously cut out your templates, which are at the back, and there's only 2. The rest you need to measure. So let me just flip that over and let me just swap cameras, because we can do that on this. Oh, Lord help us. So there's just the 2 pieces. I'll just make sure you can see that. So you've got the front and the back. Sorry, the outer pockets and the pockets, the front of the pockets. That's all you need to cut out. The notches there, that's worth cutting that out as well, because we go through the instructions on marrying up those notches. It works really well. I've put one together and it's fine. So that's right at the back. So that's what you would have needed to have done. So if we start from the very beginning, let's go back to the this one again, and I'll bring us in and out as we go. Who knows if it's going to work. So on your main fabric piece, you will have already cut a piece which is 17 inches long by 15.5 inches wide. And the 15.5 inches is the width of the Gemini. So let me just bring that up. It's this bit. Okay, so it's not that bit. Funnily enough, it's another 2 inches to go across there. So 15.5 goes from pocket to pocket. Okay, so hopefully you'll have done that, or if not, that's what you need to do. You need to pop the notches in there as well, and then you need to prepare your fabric. Now, if I bring in the fabric that I've done already, let's bring all my bits in. And let's see, I've got lots of bits and bobs here. Do you like the fabric? I was allowed to show you this fabric before anybody tells on me. I'm allowed. That's Abigail, she might tell on me. Right, so let's just have a quick look. Make sure that everybody is watching and it looks like we're all okay. So thank you very much. So what I've done, I'm going to change cameras again. So what I've done so far, let me bring that across so you can see, is I've put my notches in. So my notches are up the top here. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but there's a notch behind my wadding there. And I've done the same at the other side. And I've measured in with the pins, and this is all in the instructions on where the handle's going to go. So I'll bring that back so you can see it a little bit better. So there's 2 yellow pins there, and that tells me that's where the handle is going to be stitched. And because my handle is that little bit shorter, it only just goes, so I'm okay with that. And what I'm going to do is just bring it in about 1/4 inch, just so we've got a nice little loop there. So we've got a little bit of it just looks nice, doesn't it? So I'll just bring that in. If you make this that inch longer, then if you measure the pin to pin like it says in the pattern, this will naturally loop. It'll naturally go up like that. Okay. So what I've already done also is to mark the 4 inches up from this. This is the back edge. This is the front of the piece here, and this is the back. And what I've done is, and I'll take my pin off so you can, I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but I've marked with my heat erasable pen a line there all the way across 4 inches up, and it actually tells you in the instructions that's what you need to do. And I've laid my zip right side down onto my fabric. Okay, I'll just turn this around so I can pop the pin in. And I've actually put this, oh, it's just a little bit out, but I've put the edge of this zip against that line there. Okay, so I haven't, it's not this one here, it's this one here, then you've got the zip teeth, and then you've got the outer. So when it's stitched, it comes back like that. Okay, now I've obviously used our zip on the roll, so I've got tons left over here, which means that I can get my zip slider well out of the way, and that really makes it easy to stitch. So on the back, let me just show you, really interesting, isn't it? I've actually stabilised the back of my fabric with Vilene, a sort of a medium weight, and then I've got a layer of wadding. Now I never ever use polyester wadding. I always use this. This is like thermolam, which is like a really compressed wadding, or there's bamboo, which is very similar, and there's another one, soya, and they're all very similar to this, where it's compressed, and that's the best sort. I wouldn't use the polyester wadding really for much at all. If you were making a bag, and this is for, I think it's Doreen, no, Margaret. Margaret, you would need to use Decaville, the heavyweight Decaville. Look out for that. I think it's brought to her Chanda by, I'll think of the name of the company, but Decaville is what you want for bag making, for making them stiff. Or you could use your foam. Foam is really very good as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch the handles on, just so I've done that and I've got it out of the way. Now, when you do your handle, and this is the same for anything, this is the same for when you're making a strap for a bag, I've stabilised it again, and what I've got there is I've pressed under 1/4 of an inch roughly. I've stabilised it with a medium weight Vilene. I folded those two edges into the middle, okay, and then I folded it again like that. Now that gives you a 1 inch strap, which is perfect for our hardware, but also it's a nice size. It's nice to get your hand around. Like I say, I'd probably have made this a bit longer. I purposely didn't, because that's what it said in most of your instructions. Like I say, there's been hundreds and hundreds of people have downloaded the pattern, and I have amended it now, and you can go back and have the amended version. It's all free, so it's entirely up to you, but that's just the only thing that's changed apart from the interfacing in the pocket. So I'm just going to stitch that. I've got my my trusty machine here, and I'm going to bring it in, try to get past all the cameras, and we'll go to the front view. Let's see. You don't need to see the, well, perhaps you do need to see the top stitch. Let's just bring that camera in so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. Let's bring it right in. There is a way of zooming in on switcher, but I haven't learned that bit. Right, so I'm not going to stitch across the ends there, so you can remember I just fold that over. I'm not going to stitch there because I'm going to do that in a sec. So all I'm going to do is my top stitch. So I'm going to just set my stitch length a little bit bigger because it quickens things up for you, and I'm literally going to go right down both sides. I've already got my machine threaded up with a nice sort of, I've forgotten how to do reverse, there we are. It's all the stress of putting the switcher on. Oh my gosh. I don't know if, did you watch Abigail and Lily last week? Did you? It was amazing, wasn't it? Oh my word. The trouble is most of the time you're working blind and you've no idea what's happening. So again, I'll just do a little back stitch there just to lock it in place. Okay, so let's bring it up to the other camera, and we'll just move that out the way. So keep everything nice and neat. So you're just, I'm just snipping off the ends. You're not missing anything other than me snipping off threads. And all you're going to do now is actually attach this to your cover. So if I go back to the other camera again, let's show that, and then I'll bring that in, and you can see that I've just gone to the ends and I haven't done the bottom or the top. Hopefully you'll see that. Goodness only knows if we're working or not. So let's get it back under the machine. And I really would like your comments on what you think. Now, don't forget, I'm bringing mine in about 1/4 of an inch from my stitching, but I'm sorry, my pin line, because like I said before, I wished I'd done the instructions differently. So literally all I'm doing is doing a little back stitch to hold, And I'd normally do a little box, but actually there's no weight to this. In other words, it's not a handle where it's going to carry the machine. It's literally just so I can lift the cover off and put it to one side ready for when I need it again to cover up. So I'm just literally top stitching and locking those stitches with a back stitch. It's always a good idea. And we'll just bring that out of the way. And let me show you what I've done so far. So we'll just trim the threads up. We'll be really good today, and we'll trim threads because you know what, sometimes that takes ages. So what I've done there, can you see, we've made the handle, we've put the handle on, and actually it's not a bad little grab handle there, so you can easily get hold of that, and all you're doing is pulling that off. Like I said, there's no weight to this whatsoever. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is put this zip in. Please don't be afraid. Please don't go and run into a darkened room. You'll be fine. Actually, as long as you've got a zipper foot, okay, because I think most machines, however inexpensive or expensive they are, will have a zipper foot. Let me just bring that right across. So all I've done is put my zipper foot on and I've moved my needle right across. Now on your machine you may have one that's on a slider, so you can move it backwards and forwards and get your needle so it's going, you know, just where that hole is there. I don't know if you can possibly see. Let's just bring the camera in. Oh my gosh, it's not going to work, is it? Ooh, let's do it. No, it's not going to work because I'm pretty useless at doing that. See, if my John was here, he could do that for us. So let's just put that back and I won't touch it again. So all I've done is change the foot and put my needle right on that far left hand side. And so like I said, I've pinned my zip ready and I'm going to stitch as far as I dare. You know what, even if you go right to the, oh, lost a screw, oh my goodness me, even if you go right to the edge it won't matter. Now I think that's okay if that screw comes out. Famous last words. So what I'm going to do now is machine along my zip. Now let's see if we can get you right in close. An awful lot of stuff here, so we'll see how we get on. There. Okay, now hopefully you're going to see that. I could probably move my machine. That's about as best as we're going to get. So I've got my zipper foot on the tape. The teeth are right under here and you can see the line of where the teeth is, so you want to just make sure you avoid that. But I'm just kind of going just over 1/4 inch, I suppose, from the edge of my zip there. And I've already pinned it against the line on the actual cover itself, so as long as you've pinned it, I don't think you can go wrong really. So what we've done so far, we've almost put half a zip in. I don't think that was as frightening as perhaps anybody thought. And if I'm being patronising, I'm really sorry. But zips are, or can be, very, very, you know, get a bit anxious about it, I suppose. Anyway, there we are. Little back stitch. You can still do a back stitch even though put the zipper foot on. So let's just have a look. So what we've got is not a very straight line, but I'm at a funny angle. We've put in half the zip. Now if I was to fold that back, you'll be able to see that half that zip is in, and I haven't gone anywhere near zipper pull, which is right out of the way there, and at some point obviously that will be cut off. So what we need to do now is actually put our pocket together to go on the other side of this zip. Okay, so I'm just going to change my foot again. Now I can't see if there's any comments. I'm just going to move my iPad. There we are. The giveaway sounds good. Well, the giveaway was the pattern, so hopefully you've got that. And I haven't arranged anything else as a giveaway unless somebody else has said something. Right, so the pocket. So the pocket, here we go. The pocket is the 2 long pieces. So it says in the instructions to cut 2 pieces, 4.5 by 15.5. Okay, so that's the 2 pieces there, and I've put right sides together, and I've just pinned ready all the way along there, ready to stitch 1/4 inch. And on the back of my pocket, which is actually going to be the front, that makes sense, then I've stabilised it because it gives a nice crisp finish. Okay, so we're just literally going to do our 1/4 inch all the way down that long edge, and then we're going to turn it right side out round, and we're going to pop it onto the zip. Now one of the things I always learned when I was dressmaking was that every single thing you do you must press, and you know, I know I sound a bit like a broken record really, but it does make a huge difference. Some things I might press tonight, some things I might not. I don't know why that's moving, but it is. Never mind. So let's just take it all the way along. Don't need to do a locking stitch because that seam's going to go in a seam shortly. So there we are. So there's our pocket made. And all I'm going to do is finger press that over. Let's have a look. Maria, last zip I did, I stuck down with fabric glue. That's a good idea. We're just all after the cover, Mum. Oh, right. Well, you can. That is a freebie, yeah. Angela says, thank you for the pattern and your work. No problem at all. Do you know it takes days? You know idea. It takes such a long time. So all I'm going to do, so this is my lining. So all I'm going to do is, I mean, ideally you would absolutely press this, like I've said before. All I'm going to do is bring that seam get it nice and flat. I'm just going to do it with my fingers because we're going to top stitch this now onto the zip. Now, that's just one way of doing the zip, okay? You could have done it other ways, but this, I thought, was the most simplest way for all of us to do. All right, so look, I've finger pressed that, and because it's got that stabilizer in, it really holds it fast. Okay, so you can see that's a lovely crisp finish, really nice. So all I'm going to do, know the cover you are making. Oh, Abigail, I've got enough stress with this Switcher Studio without worrying about what you're saying. God. Right, so we're going to bring our cover in again. So what we need to do now is attach this to the zip. So look, all I've done is I've pushed this zip over. I'm going to do something else in a minute, but gosh, that's not very good, very straight, is it? I must cut that off. I don't know why that wriggled. I've got a pair of scissors somewhere. Never mind, we'll find them in a minute. So all we're going to do is stitch that onto the zip like that. Okay, we're going to top stitch it. Now, if you've pressed it really well, you probably will only see a smidge of that lining. So, for instance, I've used a real stark contrast fabric for my lining. So you will, it's a bit like piping, you will see a little bit of it. Personally, I don't mind that, but you could if you... Right. Can anybody see me? I don't know what's going on. I don't know whether I'm broadcasting or whether I'm frozen. I've started a new video again, so I'm hoping we're back and running. Abigail, if you can send me a message, please, and then I'll know if everything is okay. Certainly it says that I'm frozen on my laptop. Let's just see if it starts again. Not sure. Let's have a look. You can see me now? Somebody's saying I've got likes. And am I back? I'm not sure if I'm back or not. You can see me. Right. Let's see how we get on. Yeah, back again, back again. Right, okay. I don't know how far you got. I'm going to switch it back to the one that's near my machine and hopefully you'll see that. I'm rather hoping that's what you can see. Yeah, so all I'm doing now is top stitching my zip pocket onto my zip. I don't know how far we got with that, so I'm hoping we got some of it. So I stopped as soon as I realised that you weren't seeing it. So all I've done is put my pocket pieces right side together and stitched along one long length. It says this in the instructions. Folded it over, and now I'm top stitching this onto the zip. So I haven't done anything else other than top stitch this onto the zip. And I'll take my machine away in a sec so you can see what I've done. And like I said before, if your lining is quite light, then you'll see that. It's a bit like piping, you'll see that. But you can iron it so your lining is tucked underneath. But I don't mind seeing the lining. I'm always grateful that what I'm doing is successful. Not too fussed about whether I can see the lining or not sometimes. Okay, let me just move my machine out the way. Let's get it out the way. There we go. So look, gosh, hopefully you'll have seen everything that was important. So if you notice that I flipped the underside of my main piece out of the way, and I just pinned it so it would keep out of the way while I was stitching. Then what I did was I top stitched all the way along to encase the other side of that zip, okay? And so all we need to do is bring the underside of that pocket in now. So when we stitch it all together, then we've made ourselves a pocket. Now at this point, what I need to do is actually cut my zip so it's nice and neat. So I'm bringing that zip in now, there, and I'm just going to straighten all this up. There we go, and we'll just straighten this as well. Don't know why that wasn't, oh, perhaps it's my cutting. I'm not a very good cutter, I have to say. So just straighten that up. Now what I will do is actually top stitch that down, but I'll go from the back so I know all the layers have been caught, and I'm going to go about 1/4 inch in from the outside edge, well, just under 1/4 inch, just so it's all intact. Let me just pop my foot back on. Okay, right, so let's just make sure the zip is open, and I'll just bring that pocket up a wee bit. There we go, and I'm just going to stitch that in place. So bring my machine in and bring my zip in like that, and I'm going to start about 1/2 inch away from the top of my zip there, and just catch all those edges together. Bring that down a little bit. There we go. So I'm literally just top stitching just to hold all those edges together, so they don't wriggle about when I stitch it all together. I'll just just make sure we're still okay. So we're all okay, still watching, good. Oh my goodness, it's been very stressful, hasn't it? But I must admit, Switcher Studio is really good. At the moment I'm happy with it. I think it's just my internet connection. But I have got a booster, so I might have to try the booster out next time and see how we go. So I'm just checking to make sure that's all lined up. I'm literally going to go straight over the top of my zip and about 1/2 inch. And again, just move this out of the way. And what you can do is just neaten all this up, so you've got a nice edge to that. Again, we'll just take some of this away. So this fabric is our peacock fabric, and you'll see this not this weekend coming, but the next weekend. Abigail and I are doing a one-day special with it, and I asked the boss if I could use it, and I was given the thumbs up, so I'm pleased about that. So look, what we've done is we've now created that pocket that goes on the back of the Gemini cover. Okay, so that's that bit done. And this cover now can be put to one side because we've got the pockets to do. So with the pockets, let me just move this out of the way. With the pockets, I've got 2 pieces. There we go. And so they go like that. So that's how they work, but we'll put that like that for the moment. These are my pockets. So again, I've got different fabric again, same lining, and they're going to go on like that. So the first thing we need to do is to, so I've said to interface the lining and the pocket piece, the outer fabric, and it's 1/4 inch seam allowance along both of those. So we'll do that quickly. And then we need to actually pop the magnetic closure in. And again, I'll show you exactly how to do that. It's ever so easy, I must admit, but unless you've done it, it isn't easy, is it? So hopefully all is still okay. Yes, you're still there. So I've just stitched that top seam, those top seams together. Again, I'll finger press, but I really want you to iron all of this. So you're going to flip that over and give it a jolly good finger press. Isn't this pretty fabric? Really lovely. Okay, so we'll just do the other one. So again, you're just top stitching, not top stitching, your 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way across. I'm not bothered about a back stitch because it's going into a seam. Okay, there we go. So again, we'll just flip this over and we'll just, because it's got the interfacing on the Vilene, it really makes it stiff, which means it folds beautifully, and it really does help give you nice crisp edges. And you can top stitch this if you want to. Let's not do that because otherwise we'll run out of time. So the next thing to do is to put one half of the magnetic closure on. So we'll just pop the main pockets out of the way for the moment. We'll just take one of these. Now the magnetic closure goes on the lining. Okay, the first one goes on the lining. So let's get them in. I'll get my hole maker in. And I'll get my little rubber mat so I don't go through my table. Now what you need to do, and it says in the instructions to find the middle. Okay, now I've already pressed this and I've got a crease, and I've literally, it's not the middle for this bit, it's not this bit, it's the middle here, in the middle. So bring those seams together and finger press or get your iron, but make sure that you've got a nice crisp line that you can follow. And then you need to measure down. Now I've completely forgotten, so let's bring in the instructions and see what it says. So I've done that, done that, done all that, done that. Or you can see how I folded it there. If you missed that bit, if we did have broadcast interruption, but you'll see that. Top stitch it. Do you see? I remember I went all the way around, done that. So here we go. So this is the instruction for the magnetic closure. So what I've done is I've marked 3.5 inches from the bottom, and I've put a little cross there. Okay, so that reminds me what to do. So 3.5 inches from the bottom. I wonder if we've got a pen handy. Let's have a look. Yep. So, you know, I've already got my line because I pressed it, and or finger pressed it. So 3.5 inches is there. So let me get my ruler out of the way. So let's do X marks the spot. Then you get one of the little washers, and with this one we're going to put, let me think, we're going to put the big one. All right, so just remember it's the big one on the no, beg your pardon, it's the narrow one, the flattish one that goes on the inside of the pocket. Let me just check my Gemini just to make sure I'm telling you right. Yes, yes. Sometimes you do these things automatically and you forget. So you're just lining up your little washer and you're doing your 2 little holes, okay? And then you're making a hole. Now, I could easily do this with a pair of scissors, okay? But I've got a hole punch, so I'm going to use it. So all I'm going to do now is pop the little legs through the holes. We've marked it, so they should go in absolutely perfectly. And push those legs through. Flip it over. Get my little washer. Pop it on the back, and there's pictures in the instructions that show you this, and you can push them out. You can either push them out or push them in. It's entirely up to you. And that's one part done. Okay, so we need to do the same the other side, which is handy because then you get to see it again. I've already got my marked line there. You may not be able to see it, but I've pressed that. 3.5 inches from the bottom. We're on a roll now, aren't we? Now we've got the technology sorted out. So there's my cross, and then put there's a little circle in the middle of this, and all I'm doing is lining up the centre of my cross with that, punching those holes in. Again, you can just use little snippy scissors for this. And then we want the other little flat one. Let's remember which ones we're doing. If I can, that's it. So flip it over. I used to have a proper mat for doing this, and now I've got holes all in this. I'll have to try and find it. And then pop that down. Are we still broadcasting? Can everybody send me a thumbs up? You missed the first 20 minutes, Liz. Oh, I think most people did because we had interrupted broadcast. The punch is a threader's punch. I'm not sure we have it in stock. They're so difficult to get in stock, but there's loads of punches on the market. You know, you can get one for leather that has a wheel and you can rotate it and get a little hole. That's just as good. Or little pair of snippy scissors and just make 2 little slits, because if you look at it, that's going to cover quite a big little slit. That's a contradiction of terms, but yes, it will. Anyway, so there's our 2 pockets done. So now what we need to do is exactly the same for the main pocket. So let's just get the right one for the right one. So this is this one here. See how that fits on? Now, normally what I do is I fold this back. This is all in the instructions. I find my popper, which is just there, and I mark it. I can just about see my red pen there. So I know that popper's going to fit perfectly on there. And this time we're going to put the big side of the popper on. So just line that up. I might do this by guesswork because it's hard to see this on the dark fabric. So again, we'll just pop 2 holes in. And I've already stabilised, well, I don't think I went through, I've already stabilised this fabric and put wadding on the back. So I've got a layer of stabiliser and I've got the wadding. Okay, so that's, I've already pre-done that. And you may think that's a bit of an overkill, but actually it makes the whole thing really sturdy. So little legs through the holes, flip it over and pop your washer on the back. And with a magnetic closure, all of this work has to be done before you actually stitch anything together. You know, you can't do this afterwards, not really, because you end up with seeing that, but that's going to go inside the lining when we do the lining. So again, with the other one, I'll just bring the other pocket in because it may well be in a slightly different place. So again, I always use that as my guide. So it's around about there. And the thing to do is just do it. Just have a little go. Find 3 different sorts of fabric, and you want the lining as well, and just have a go. All right. What can possibly go wrong? If you're doing a Facebook Live, everything. Right. Oh, that's it. So on this side, we're putting in the fat half, if you like, the fatter half. And hopefully you can see this. I'm a little bit off centre, aren't I? Can you see okay? Yeah, I was a little bit off centre with that, but hopefully you'll be able to see. So I've made the little holes, I've popped my little legs through, flipped it over and just pushed those legs out. Now, if you find that that's a little tricky, just get a pair of scissors and just use your scissors to bend those back. Sometimes I find that a little bit softer on my hands, and then just push the whole thing down and that should be fine. So hopefully you'll see that now. I've got lots of bits. Anyway, so we don't need the black mat anymore. So there we are. So we've now got our pockets. Let's make sure we've got the right ones. Here we go. So our pockets now fit on there. And again, just get the magnetic closure to marry up, and there we are. So that's not bad, not bad. Now I'm definitely going to stitch all this together just like I did before with the zip that we put in, the pocket of the zip we put in. And so I'm going to bring my machine in. So clip, you know, get your magnetic closure working. So clip them together, and then even if you've gone a little bit off centre, it won't matter, but then just stitch it as you've got it there. So we're just going to go all the way around, and I've gone about just under a 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Okay, and that just holds everything in place. And makes a nice finish. Now, while I've got you, we're still broadcasting. Caroline, sorry you're late. Well, you haven't missed much because we kept losing our connection, Caroline. So hopefully I'm all right for another little while. And again, if you need to cut this back, then do that. It's not too bad. I'm going to ignore it, but just snip those threads out of the way. Sometimes they go together beautifully, but they would never go together beautifully on a Facebook Live or on live TV, would they? Because that's the nature of the beast. So again, we'll just go around this pocket. So all we're doing is just bringing all the fabrics together to make one piece of fabric rather than lots of layers, because if you think about it, everyone has got stabiliser, everyone has wadding, no, not everyone, but the main pocket has. Yeah, it's gone a little bit off there. And all that means is that when you go to stitch this together, then all you're going to do is allow for that, or just make sure you caught it when you're finished. Like I say, these things happen. So we'll just trim that off a little bit, and I will just trim that and it just makes it easier. Here we go. So let's have a look. Are there any questions? Oh, I can't see anything. Let's have a look. Let's move this out of the way now. I'm just going to see if there's any question. Let's just go to the front camera. There we are. I'll just see if there's any questions because I can only see so much. Still here, we can hear you. Oh, that's good. Yeah, lovely. Well, I think we're yeah, I love the fabric, so clean and fresh. You know what? This is the peacock fabric. This, I don't know if you can you see all that? So these are all the new fabrics. You know, we gave you a fat quarter in Sew Inspired 11, I think it was. Yes, I think it was Sew Inspired 11. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was that one, wasn't it? So now you've got the 3 plains and the 3 patterns that are coming with that next week. So they are really lovely. And gosh, if you've got Builder Block, my goodness me, you're going to make the most amazing quilts with this. Okay, so look, we've made our main piece. Let me just move this slightly. So we've made our main piece. Let's just make sure you can see that. So we've got the handle attached. We've got the back piece done with the zip, and hopefully you saw all of that because that's quite a nice little technique. And obviously that's the front. So all we need to do now is actually pop our pockets on, and then it's practically done. So remembering that that shape, if you think of your Gemini, that's the back, isn't it? And that's the front. So this is the piece that goes to the back. So always remember right sides together. So I always have to think which way round it's going to go. No, let me think. I still can't think. Help! That's going to go like that, look. So just make sure you line your notches up. Isn't it funny how your mind goes blank? I mean, normally, everything's fine, normally, and then all of a sudden it's like, I've forgotten my name, everything. So all I've done is match those notches up. So make sure you cut those notches into your fabric when you've prepared it all. So you can see I've done right sides together. Now I'm going to stitch those pockets in at the end. Doesn't it look nice? Because I haven't made this one up in this fabric yet. So I'm going to keep this on the front camera, and then we're going to move this one just slightly out of the way. So even though I've got that pinned in the middle there, I'm going to do straight sides on, which is probably better. I'm going to bring my straight sides in, and I'm going to go straight to the end of my curve and start there. And trust me, they all fit together. I have tested it. See how we go. And you might find it a little awkward because there's an awful lot of layers and it has a mind of its own. Just do a little bit bigger than 1/4 inch. That way you're going to cover all your top stitching. So let's get going with this. And what I might do is I might skip the bit about putting the lining together. I'll see how we go. I mean, we've been going quite a while, haven't we? Nearly an hour, which is too long really, because we all get bored. So hopefully, not sure. So because I wanted to originally put the lining, the piping on this bit, I'm rather glad I didn't in the end, because it's quite tricky to go around all these curves with all this fabric. Now that has come up short and I don't know why. Let's have a look. That has definitely come up short. Now this is the first time I put the pattern together, so I'm hoping this is just me and not you guys. Let's have a look. Let's see. I'm going to just unpick that bit and see how we get on, because that shouldn't have happened, because this has all been measured accurately. So let's, I think might have gone quite wide on my pocket piece, so we'll just undo that. And like I say, if this happens to you, please don't get upset. And like I say, this is the first time I've actually used the pattern, but I know it works. So what I'll do is I'll start from the other end and see how we get on. And I'll bring this like this. So that comes together like that. And we'll start from there, see how we get on. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Because what will happen is, thereabouts, your pockets should line up pretty much with your back pocket. So it might be better if you start with that and then work your way from back to front. But it's good if I can do this for you. Let's just bring it round. Normally I like to do the straight side onto a curve. I don't know about you at home, whether you do that. For whatever reason, it obviously wasn't liking that very much. So I'll just take this all out. But let's see how we go. Just one moment. This is the sort of thing that happens, doesn't it? Really? It's like, please. And you know it's perfectly fine. There we go. Let's just cut that bit. There we go. So again, we'll just work this around. If you've got a needle up down function, this is a good time to use that. So when you get to that point here, just bring that around and keep putting your needle down. And bring it around. That is a little bit long. Okay, well, we'll see how we get on at the other side. I'll start at the back again. It's about 1/2 inch out, which, to be honest, that's neither here nor there. As long as we've got those back pieces lined up with the pockets, then I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that. So if we look at the back, so you can see as I turn it out, let's do that. Look, you can see, let's change the camera so you can see there. So you can see, look how that, whoop, how that works. It just about goes together, and there's your pocket there with the popper, and it's all come together fairly well. It's just here, it's about 1/2 inch out, so that could well be me. So if that happens to you, start from the back, and I'll redo this and when I've got some time next week, and see how we get on. But this time I'm going to go from the other side. So I'll switch camera again. Although, do you want to see that way? Or yeah, let's keep it on there. Let's keep it on there. Glad it's not just me, Heather. It happens to the best of us, and you know what? This is real life, isn't it? Because you know, this is, well, it's just going to happen to the best of us, really. So all I'm going to do is just put the straight edge against the curve, which I much prefer to do. And like I say, if you have got a needle up down function, it's a good time to use it, because then you can swivel your fabrics. Just make sure that zipper is out of the way. So all we're doing is starting from the back. So I would much prefer it if you started from the back, and work your way around, and your notches match absolutely perfectly. Do you know, I've been right fed up if this one matches. don't know why. I have this sneaky suspicion it might. So just bring it all the way round. There we go. Ah, hello, camera crew. Oh, John says he's going for a walk. Okay, see you in a bit, love. So here we go. So just pushing that through. So I'm going straight edge onto my curve, putting my needle down so it gives me leverage to bring all this round. But you know, that's still not going to be right. Now, I apologise, folks, if this is not going to be right. But we'll see how we get on. We're about ½ an inch out again. But we can trim that. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It could be when I transferred the design. Then let's just move that up here. So when I transferred the design, I might have made it slightly smaller, the pockets, and that would make a difference. So, but I'll trim this off. You see how you get on with it. And see if you need to trim it back. And I would be very interested to know. I mean, obviously I'm kind of rushing this a little bit, but you'll have a little bit more time at home. And also you could pin quite a lot rather than me. I'm not pinning, I'm fingers crossed doing it as we go. So look, there's the main body done now. There we go. So that is almost finished. Isn't it pretty? It's looking really good. And if you can iron it, then iron it at this stage, because it'll be tricky once you've done the lining. But that is thereabouts there. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do, just to save a bit of time, because obviously I don't want to bore you. I won't stitch the lining, but what I will do is show you how I do the piping and how to put that on, okay? So just pop that out the way for a moment. I'm going to keep my turquoise thread in, which is not ideal, but actually you'll be able to see a lot better. So now I've cut 2 selfish lengths of the contrasting fabric, which is all part of this new fabric from the Peacock range, and that's far too long, all right, but there'll be spares left over for other little projects. And 2.5 inches wide is actually really generous when you put the piping cord in. It's really generous, but if you've never done piping before, let me just change camera so you can see. If you've never done piping before, the idea is that you get quite near to the edge, near to your piping here, and the more we've got here to play with, then the better for you. If I was to cut it shorter, they would no doubt wriggle completely out of the way. So I'm going to change to my zipper foot again. And the first one we do is literally to encase the piping cord. So I'm not going to go right up to the edge here. I'm going to go about here, and that will then just encase my piping cord, okay? And you can trim that back if you want to. So I'm just going to literally, my zipper foot on this machine, oh, I've just lost me piping cord. Let's start again. I'll tell you what I like to do. I like to catch it. So if you do the same as me, just catch it with a couple of stitches. My zipper foot is hopeless, and as much as I love my machine, if you recognise my machine, you'll know what it is. It's not the cheapest of machines, but the zipper foot is rubbish. And I was having a little chat with our Bernie up at Newton Aycliffe a few weeks back now, and I said, you know what, you need a zipper foot that has a really wide bottom, because it grips your fabric better. So look, hopefully you're seeing what I'm doing. I'm just got my piping cord in there, just bringing my 2.5 inch strip over in half, and I'm not going anywhere near the edge of that pipe. I'm nowhere near this. I'm nowhere near the piping cord. And I'm going to if I just do a little bit, because what I'll do is I'll show you how to put it into the cover, And then I won't cut it because I want to finish this. So let's just trim this off. There's a couple of ways of putting piping cord into something. One of the ways is crossing them over. So let's assume that this is the other end and it has the cord in. When you start off, in fact it's that way, you would encase that into the seam, so you can twist that so it goes into the seam, and you actually stitch across diagonally like this, and when you bring the other one in, you cross it over again, and then they cross over nice and neat. The one that you finish with, if you give yourself enough time, you need to just well, you don't have to really, but you can neaten off that edge. But as long as all your raw edges are caught within that seam, then let's just do it so we can see. So if that was stitched in like that, that gives you a really nice, neat finish. So it's just a case of twisting them together, and you literally stitch across that piece that they've crossed over. Another way is to fold your end in and make a little tube like that, and then when you come to the other end, you literally just feed that in, and you carry on stitching like that, and that gives you a nice neat finish. So that's again just another way of finishing off your piping. Now with the piping, it's really simple, trust me, honestly, if you've never done it before, don't be afraid. What you're going to do is you're going to sandwich this piping in your layers. Now you know I've got this really long edge. Well, we don't want to stitch that edge to edge like that, okay? We do not want to do that because we're losing, well, almost 3/4 of an inch. So you could trim this now if you wanted to, but I would just bring it down, and because I'm going to use my the feel of this to actually machine. But you could, let's just trim it so you get a better idea of what I'm talking about instead of waffling away, because we really should finish this broadcast so you don't get bored to tears. So look, you can see now that that's perfect. So we're going to sandwich that piping, and all we're going to do with that is just take that off the edge like that. Do you see how that curves? Let me bring this in so you can see, hopefully you can see this coming up a bit more. So you're going to marry that edge up with the edge of your bag, and you could, you know, like we did before where we top stitched all the pockets and everything to keep it all intact. Well, you could do the same with this. You could do another row of stitching just to hold that in place, but take that off the edge, and so you're stitching from there up to here, and believe me, it does work. And then you end up, when you come round, you have a crossover. So you could stay stitch that in place just to hold it, but then when you get your lining, so this, let's just say this is the edge of your lining, well, it is the edge of the lining when I put it together, you're literally sandwiching all of those layers together, and you're going to, it's funny how you can feel it with your zipper foot. You can feel that you're going up against the piping there, and as long as you've got all those layers coming together, then you will just do about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance there, and you can feel that you're right up against that piping. Do you see? And like I say, you're going to twist it so it comes off of the cover like that. And so you're going to sandwich those all together, and you're going to go all the way around the bottom. And once you've done that, we haven't allowed for a turning point at this stage. So when you do your lining, you're going to leave a gap on one of the pockets, one of the pocket sides here, to turn it right the way through, and then you can actually neaten it off. So let's just go to front camera again. So hopefully you're not bored to death. Oh dear, Jane, never bored. No. I hope I've covered everything. I hope I've covered all the real technical stuff that we all get a bit stuck on. I understand that completely. And let me just bring my Gemini in. Let's move this out of the way. Let's move it, take it, put it down here. And let's have a look at the one that we've just made. So this is the one that I did the other day. Let's take that off. And this is the one we've just made. So let's see, which is the back? That's the back. So you can see it fits absolutely perfectly. And all you've got to do now is the piping. Can you see how that looks? Sort of tuck that in. And I think it probably obviously needs a good press. And if you've got one of those pressing hams, then it's really good for that because you've got the curves. We put the magnetic pockets in, so they've all been done. You've seen how to do that. Aren't they easy? You've seen how to put the zip in. I was a little concerned that we missed our broadcast then, and if that's the case, when I look back, then that's something I will definitely do with you again. So now all we have to do is stitch the lining, and the lining literally is 3 pieces. It's the 2 end pieces where the pockets are. Oh, no, I've pinned them together. So you've got 2 each here, and then you've got the long piece, and you literally match up your notches again and stitch those together. It goes like that, and that's your lining done. So that's pretty easy to do. So there we are. I've covered everything. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. I really love how this is looking. I love the fact that we've got the different fabrics on there. It fits nice and snug. Don't forget, this is not a carry handle. This is just a lift off and use cover. It's called the Gemini Cosy cover. It's my own design. Nobody from Crafters Companion has been involved. They probably think, thank goodness for that. But I hope you'll make one, and I hope that I'll see some of the photos that you post. And like I say, when you've got that binding on there, if I bring that up, I'm not sure how we're going to see this, but you can see the contrast fabric going to be right on the bottom there, and I think that'll look really nice. I'm just waiting for my camera to catch up so I can see if you can see. Right folks, I'm exhausted. I should imagine you are. I'm going to go away and have another look at that pattern, make sure that's correct. I think it's fine, and if it doesn't quite meet, then just trim, because your piping is going to lengthen it anyway. And actually I think that looks pretty cool. I'm really happy with that. Thank you very much for